engine is more or less in place, but it needs to be raised a little bit more to reach the shaft coupling. And we want to build some spaces, so to figure out how high those spaces actually have to be, we went to Quijano's machine shop and we had a custom-made shim set made from some leftover Teflon they had lying around. Well, you have to be a little bit inventive if you don't have the right tools at hand, right? We got a set of 4 for each ½ inch, 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch, and even 1/16 of an inch. And I just love being in the machine shop and watch those pros at work. It's awesome.
That's pretty impressive, huh? That's pretty impressive.
Also, we had a nifty little piece made that I thought might help for the alignment process. It's a little Teflon bushing that fits snug into my stern tube and centers the shaft perfectly in the middle, so we don't have to hold it in place and we can move the engine around to meet the shaft coupling perfectly in the alignment process.
¿Todo bien? ¿Usted ya lleva muchos años aquí? ¿Trabajando? ¿Cuánto? 45 años, como la máquina casi. Wow.
Yo estaba aquí, no lo había comprado todavía.
Ah, no. Entonces usted más tiempo lleva aquí que la máquina.
During the last 4 years, I've spent quite a bit of money and a ton of hours of sweating and swearing for Karl's transformation into a seaworthy sailing vessel, and I decided it was time to reward myself with a little something that was not necessarily needed, but would make the boat a little bit more comfortable. Some brand new cockpit cushions! Finally on the way back with our special airbag. Yeah. Not much room for ourselves. Once we were back on the boat, we started the crazy alignment process. Well, we had to figure out the height of the spaces first. So we lowered the engine mounts all the way to the bottom and then one full turn up so they would all be at the same height.
It's too simple to think that no one had ever thought of it. Look, it stops the water perfectly. Yeah. It's incredible.
We put our little nifty Teflon bushing in place and screwed some metal plates onto some wooden bars that were supposed to prevent the engine from sliding backwards since it sits on an angle. Then we lifted the engine up with 2 chain falls on our custom-made aluminum pipe and added the shims until the engine was at the right height to meet the shaft coupling. It was a bit tricky to keep the shims in place, but in the end we had figured out the right height for our spaces. Eric, who works at the yard in Balboa Yacht Club, loved our DIY spirit and told us that he might have something that we could use as spaces. Some old material from the Panama Canal that they had used as bumpers on the walls of the locks. And he insisted on cutting the spaces, and I then shaved them down to the right height with the grinder. Good morning, Red. Today's gonna be the day of the days. You're gonna get your alignment done. Our custom-made little shims. Yay. For now. This is actually a piece of the canal. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's the stuff on the sides where the ships bump into. So we hope it's going to be pretty solid, but I might replace it with something more solid in the future, but for now this is what we'll have to do. We put the spacers in place and moved the engine around a bit so the shaft coupling would slide easily into the engine flange. Well, time to drill some holes. And I am really happy that my boat is made from aluminum and not from steel, but still, drilling through more than 2 inches of aluminum was some piece of work, even with working my way up from 6 to 8 to 10 millimeters and using some brand new drill bits. Some of the holes were close to the aluminum ribs, so I had to adjust some of the washers. And after adding some tough gel, I could put the bolts in place and Big Red was ready for the final twist. We put the coupling bolts loosely in place and started the alignment by moving the engine up and down until the upper and the lower part of the engine and the shaft flange would have gaps smaller than 0.004 of an inch. And after that we moved the engine slightly from side to side to get the same results on the sides. We actually thought that we had totally succeeded and were about to celebrate. Just to double check, we removed the bolts and turned the shaft coupling 180 degrees without moving the transmission flange. And we noticed that our apparently perfectly aligned engine was all of a sudden totally out of alignment. It took some serious scratching of our heads and reading up some stuff in Nike Karl's engine Bible to figure out that we had missed one crucial part in the process. To previously check if the coupling actually sits square on the shaft and that the surface of the coupling is in perfect shape. Well, my old one wasn't, so I had to order a new shaft coupling and try again. But more about that next week.